Alrighty, guys. So I'm here. I've got Alex, the climbing sports dietitian. He's going to introduce himself, and we're going to jump straight in. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Josh, mate. Yeah, so I just want to introduce myself. So my name's Aleksa. I'm a sports dietitian, called Climbing Dietitian. So that's me on Instagram if you want to check me out. Yeah, so just been working, for the last few years exclusively in private practice here in Brisbane. So same as Josh, in the same city, and just working from a variety of different clients, working from chronic disease management, working with, doctors and medical staff to working with, recreational athletes to even more high level athletes, and generally kind of enjoying working with the active individual. So, people that just want to optimize their body composition, maybe just want to optimize their performance a bit, perform better in the gym, or simply just want to feel healthier, feel more confident, feel better about themselves as well. So, I mean, that's just a very, quick and easy kind of way to explain what I'm about and what I do. But yeah, on to you, Josh.
Yeah, cool, sweet. And I think even straight up, like from the very start, even from that, I guess the intro, just want to touch on everyone else's. People like we said, the general pop optimizing. It's not just athletes that have to optimize their health, optimize their nutrition. The performance is for everyone, and I think a lot of people kind of get fixated on that, our performance is just high level sport. But that's not what we're talking about today. Okay, so we won't kind of dig into that. What we're kind of what I wanted to jump in and talk to you about today is, I guess, goals. And obviously a lot of people, especially in general population, have the goal of losing weight, and people get really fixated on the number. And I know that you've done a little bit of talking about, I guess, kind of looking past that and go, all right, cool. How about we don't necessarily look at the number right now, because there is a couple of things out of our control. And let's look at the things that we can actually influence and we can control throughout this time. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, definitely. So, and this is something that applies no matter, even if it's, the whole coronavirus situation, but I guess it's just amplified now with the whole situation out there, where perhaps we're kind of taken a step back and we have to really reflect on what we're trying to achieve. And a lot of times when you see someone that's trying to lose weight, what happens? And, I can admit that I've been guilty of this as well. So, growing up, when I first started trying to, improve my body composition, I was, in high school trying to, do a bit of running, a bit of basketball, that sort of stuff. I would kind of find myself wanting to always just focus on the scale. And I'll always be looking at the scale weight going, why is it not going down? Or why has it suddenly gone up? And it creates this stress, it creates this mindset stress where people wonder, am I doing the right thing or am I doing the wrong thing? What should I be doing differently? And that kind of leads to people jumping back and forth, trying to do this, trying to do that. I like to say it's like they're looking for that holy grail solution. It doesn't really exist. They're trying to look for that solution that's going to fix all their problems. And it doesn't really exist. And a lot of the times, going back to the scale weight, it's manifested by the fact that people only focus on one side of the picture. They only look at the scale weight. And when they just look at the scale weight, they don't see the other things that are improving. For example, let's say someone's trying to lose weight, but they're just looking at the scale, but they're not looking at their running time. But perhaps their actual conditioning is actually working well. Perhaps they're fueling themselves better than they ever have. And perhaps their running distance, or running time, whatever you want to call it, has actually improved. And people don't tend to really see that unless they look beyond the scale and look at other factors rather than just the machine that you step on every single morning. So yeah, a lot of times when I'm pushing that whole look beyond the scale, it's really because there's other factors that you can use to assess how well you're doing. It's not just a number. Is your energy good? How are your stress levels? Are you feeling, when I'm working with nutrition clients, are you feeling hungrier, less hungry? What's your hunger control like? Sleep's such an important thing. And I'm sure you'd agree with that, Josh.
Oh, yeah.
Performance with just exercise. You probably see it when people come into your gym, before this happened, people come into your gym, you'd notice the ones that maybe didn't have a good sleep in, how it affects the way they train. Sleep has such a big impact where people don't tend to look at that. They look beyond that. Look at things like, bowel health. And there's so many different factors around health and nutrition and fitness and all that stuff, mindset as well, where people kind of look beyond and don't really kind of appreciate how much maybe improvements they've made, or they just don't appreciate of how important it is. And therefore they don't really put any focus on it. And when they don't put a focus on it, you get into a rat race with your nutrition where it's just scale. Am I trying to lose? Am I losing? Crap. I've gained 200 grams. What's happening? And then next day you lose 500 grams, and it's like, you're kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place sometimes, trying to decipher it all if you're just focusing on that one aspect, you know, if you get what I mean.
100%, yeah. And like I think as well, like what you said at the start, is like people will they'll start and they'll have great intentions, and then they'll jump off and they go, it's just not working. The scales aren't reflecting all the effort I'm putting in, right? And they're looking for that holy grail. They go, hey, I want to do a really hard workout, and then I want to see a kilo hop on the scales. And that's kind of what people are looking for, and obviously it's not coming down to it. But and I think like what I've noticed as well is like that 100% affects people's adherence. Like if someone wants to get amazing results, like it's going to take a long time, especially if they're going to want to keep it. Yeah, you could eat no calories, you drop a heap of weight, but you're going to gain it all back. But if you want to actually create some long-lasting change, you're going to have to do some big things, and it's going to take a long time. So I think even having those smaller goals actually keeps that motivation higher. So like you said, like, hey, like, yeah, cool. The scale might not have actually changed yet, but what has? Fitness. We're able to do way more. We're able to sleep better, right? The one that I notice a lot more than the one I notice that clients don't necessarily always kind of realize that I am able to kind of show to them goes, hey, your recovery is through the roof right now, because I'm like, remember the first time you came in, you did a class, and then you were here for 15 minutes afterwards, and you still couldn't even move. But now you're doing a class, you might feel the same at the end, but you're moving around 2-3 minutes later. Like that in itself is such a huge, I guess, even goal, and something to also strive and look for. And it comes through obviously nutrition and everything like that as well. That kind of can just help you stay on track towards the big end goal, because obviously that's where we want to get to. But if you just focus on the scale, like, yes, like no matter who you are, if you're jumping on the scales every day and that's the only thing you're tracking, you're going to get disheartened, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you've mentioned as well that I've kind of that I really loved was, I think it was only a couple of days ago, is trying to have that curve peaking. So obviously the coronavirus, everyone's talking about flattening it, but we want to try and get that the progress or the performance curve to actually just kind of keep tracking up. And obviously that is getting those small little wins and having those other little things that we're tracking, not necessarily just the weight. Because if you can start to see some other results in other areas, fitness, recovery, sleeping, mindset, all that type of stuff, it's going to stoke the fire and then kind of get your way along to the big goal. So I'd love to know like your thought process behind like the transitioning phase from going, okay, cool, like let's go from just the big goal down to the small goal, and actually starting to create that little progress peak for clients as well.
Yeah. So basically, basically it came to me. I was thinking, I was working through client work, and I was thinking how everyone's talking about the coronavirus, and that's like a conversation in everyone's mind right now. You know, whether it's from fear or whatever it is. And I was thinking they keep talking about flattening the curve, and what I noticed was people tended to start to think about their whole health journey as going down the same trend, not necessarily on purpose. No one really, I think, goes, I want to ruin my health goals, but it was kind of going with the wave. And I was thinking progress has to be, if anything, it has to be going the opposite. It has to be peaking. And for that to be more easily initiated, not only do you have to have awareness, so they have to have awareness around what it is they're trying to ultimately achieve and whether they're pivoting their goals at this time and, right now. But then also kind of, like you said, building those baby steps. Sometimes the big overarching goal, the one you're trying to achieve eventually, it can seem quite daunting. And then you add in extra, burdens such as the coronavirus scare, such as the stresses around work and money and all that sort of stuff. Now that goal, it becomes even more unattainable, or at least it seems more unattainable. And because of that, you want to kind of make some process goals kind of going towards that. You want to make some baby steps. Maybe it's not about focusing on losing that 20 kilos. Maybe it's focusing on losing that first 5 kilos and then reassessing. Perhaps it's then not even just focusing on the weight, but moving away from it and focusing on those other non-scale wins. So you can track your progress and see if there's other trends that are going upwards rather than just your weight going down or going up. I'm sure that makes sense to yourself as well. Like you probably see a lot of that as well, where people are kind of letting the coronavirus, the COVID situation kind of push their goals down, whereas they actually should be not necessarily fighting it too much, but at least staying in the game, at least maintaining some momentum, at least kind of focusing on themselves to some degree. And that could be the fact of taking a step back, going, okay, maybe the weight shouldn't have to be a focus right now. Perhaps that's putting too much overwhelm, too much stress on me. So perhaps stepping back and being like, where else can I focus on my nutrition? Could I focus maybe establishing habits? Because habits are so key to getting that long-term change. Like you mentioned there before, people want that quick fix, that quick and easy results, but it actually takes time. And in that same way, to be able to achieve those goals that take time, you want to be able to develop those habits. So maybe right now, people need to be pivoting and thinking about not just the overarching body composition stuff, but actually thinking about how can they actually focus on these other things. You know, maybe eat more fruits and veggies, maybe eat more protein, maybe actually sleep better and have a good sleep routine. Perhaps start that exercise routine that you've been putting off, okay? Now with, you know, all these online programs and, you know, home workouts, you know, maybe people have that skipping rope that they could be using, for example. And then it's about kind of maybe starting those processes that perhaps before life was so hectic or you just felt like there was no point trying. Now is a good time to maybe start these things and start working on developing yourself from a mindset perspective, physical perspective, as well as just developing those foundational habits, so to speak, that's going to kind of reinforce what you're trying to do in the long term. So that when things go back to normal eventually, which they will, okay, we can all agree that eventually they'll get back to some level of normality. You can kind of hit the roll running, and then you can actually get the results you're hoping for later on. So yeah, I'm sure you understand what I mean there.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I think the main thing as well that you said right there is like that momentum, like especially everyone that has been training or following a nutrition program or been basically working, even if it's not fitness related, working towards a goal. Like there's that level of momentum. And I think I saw a thing that you posted earlier as well is like, it's so much harder to start something than it is just to kind of keep it going. Like right now, we've done the hard work of getting to the gym or contacting someone for a nutrition plan or whatever your goal is that you had pre-COVID. We've already done the hard steps of starting. Like that's always going to be the hardest. Once you've started, it's just like, all right, cool. Let's just keep the ball rolling, one foot after the other. Let's keep getting through. And I think that's the thing that, like you were saying as well, like we need to kind of obviously work on mindset, which we've actually started putting a lot more emphasis on through all our clients and everything, because just no matter what, it is a very stressful time, the unknown. No one really knows what's going to happen, if lockdown's going to be lifted, if it's going to stay longer, like no one really knows. So a lot of mindset stuff's going to help with that. But then it's also just the way I look at it, and I've been, I guess, pushing other people is like, hey, let's just flip this around. Let's look through a different window. Let's go, all right, cool. Yes, we can't get to the gym. Yes, we're not in our normal routine or life, but what can we do? And like you said, like what are those things that we can focus on today and set up those habits? So when it does come back to normal, whatever normal looks like when all this is over, we're actually in a better position. So if we, for example, like, I know I've got clients that have horrible sleep, like you mentioned, or that skip meals for whatever reason. And I go, cool. All right, let's focus on. I'm like, someone I say to it, like, let's not even worry about what you're eating. Let's just focus on getting a structured meal eating time down place. So when it does come back to everything's being normal, you're used to eating at these specific times. Then we can change what you're actually eating. And I think, like you said, it's like just changing those little things and going, all right, cool. Yes, my goal is this, but in the meantime, I can influence this, and this, and I can see results today, tomorrow, by the end of the week. And I guess those little things straight away, like if you've got something, you go, all right, cool. I'm going to be able to know if I've achieved this or not tomorrow, or I'm going to know if I can achieve this or not by Sunday. That's going to be motivating, because you have no time to kind of like bum around and go, oh, I'm going to have a rest day today if you need to do it today. You know what I mean? So I really love that part as well that you were mentioning in terms of just transitioning, in terms of doing those little things in terms of the habits. That was really, really awesome. And that's kind of something that we try and focus on as well. The other thing that I wanted to touch on as well is one of the things that you mentioned the other day is, so this is really in terms of isolation right now, in terms of people, obviously they're at home, they've got more time. And when people are bored, they like to snack. And one of the things that you mentioned was improving the access to healthy snacks, or improving or getting rid of the friction towards healthy snacks. We talk a lot about from our mindset in terms of, okay, let's eliminate the friction. If there's too much friction when it comes to an action or a habit that we want to want to try and do, you're just going to make it too hard for yourself. So for example, if I say, all right, if you've got to move the table, pull out your equipment every time you've got to do a workout, you're not going to do it. You're going to do it once or twice and that's it. So I guess I want to hear your, thoughts and your little tips, as well, in terms of reducing that friction and improving the ability to stay healthy with snacks and eating, at home.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's something that I see quite often with the whole emotional eating aspects. And it's about making the environment just that bit more easier, because the reality is that the foods that we're going for in abundance is foods that are comfort foods, and they're comfort foods for a reason. And both me and yourself would agree that these are the kind of foods that everyone generally would enjoy. And it's not wrong to eat them. And it's just about how you do it. So it's about, like how you said, the friction. If you're making healthier foods harder for yourself to make it more comfortable, you're not going to go for those more readily. Whereas if your packet of chips is right there, and especially if it's open, for example, you're more likely to go back and back and back until your calories are gone too high. And that's something that I see sometimes with individuals when they reach out and they're struggling. They're like, I just can't seem to, get rid of all the stress eating. And for obvious reasons, a lot of people are stressed right now. So stress eating is kind of, top priority sometimes when it comes to balancing out nutrition during COVID. So it's about kind of making the decisions to have the healthier, lower calorie option just that bit easier. It's not about full restriction of saying no chocolates. It's about saying, okay, there may be some chocolates, but I'm overdoing it. I need to take a step back, make the healthier snacks easier so that I can go back to doing what I did before, which is a nice, flexible, balanced meal, rather than letting it slide, out of proportion and having to eat more chocolate than you otherwise would. Because like you said, a lot of times people goals are made on a shaky foundation. And right now you want to be establishing the reinforcements. You want to be establishing the foundation so that when tough times come ahead later in the future, you're ready for it more. Because right now, maybe things were a bit too easy. You were able to get some results, but now Corona's kind of hit and now things are harder. You're stressing more. Access to those kind of foods is harder, especially if, people in families where it's not just about focusing on their nutrition. They have to, cater for kids and, their husbands or their wives and all that sort of stuff. You have an environment that becomes a bit more conducive to snack eating, a bit more conducive to overeating. So you got to kind of take a step back, audit your environment and make it just a bit easier for you to choose the right option, more so than the other option, so that you can have that control again. It's all about having that power over your decisions, not saying yes or no, but having that power over your decisions. So you can say yes to chocolate if it comes to it, or yes to some fruit if it comes to it, but ultimately you're in the driver's seat. You're the one that has the power over that decision. And that's really what it comes down to. Like in the way you said it, reducing that friction, you want to reduce that burden of choosing the option that is better for you. So it becomes more habitual and it becomes just that bit easier. Because if you're adding all the stresses related to coronavirus, you're adding all the stresses of life in general. And then now you're adding that extra bit of, like I said, friction when you're trying to choose a certain snack, a certain meal. You're just going to be less likely to actually go for that healthy option. You're more likely to go to the easy option because we tend to gravitate towards our comfort zone, especially during times of uncertainty.
No, definitely. And I guess taking that the next step further as well, like what you said, obviously the stress eating, and obviously like eating chocolate and stuff isn't bad. Like it's just having the power to make the decision. You go, all right, cool. This is what I'm going to do. Not being like, and basically in a position of feeling like you've got no power at all going, I just can't stop eating. You go, no, I'm deciding to eat this. I'm deciding to eat that. That really ties into something that we've been talking about with our clients as well. And that's about the reactions that we have towards events, or 90% of the time it's negative events. Sometimes it can be positive events. And what we've been talking about is going, are the actions or the reactions that's happening to you, are they serving you 100%? So for example, obviously right now, very stressful time, people tend to lean towards stress eating. And I guess, like I was saying before, like if we can eliminate that friction, so then we have eating good food isn't necessarily bad. Eating good food isn't hard, and we have the option between the two. And if we can start to choose healthier foods more frequently rather than always going to the chocolate or always going to the soft drink or whatever it is, I found that, and what I've been kind of pushing with our guys is that it starts to create better reactions. So then when we come out of this post COVID, whenever we start to have those negative events, those negative stresses. For example, it can be big ones like COVID, like say you lose your job, you find out your partner's cheating on you, someone's passed away, anything that is quite traumatic. If we have these reactions in there, we start to make slightly better choices, and it starts to become turned into habits. Obviously, then again, we can have obviously a lot lower negative events, like we're just having a generally bad day. That's kind of the ones that we tend to, it's just stressful at work. We come home, we have a couple of beers, we eat bad, and then it kind of trickles on. That's what I find. So what I've been trying to push with our clients is going, cool, let's start creating those better reactions. When we have a negative day or whatever, let's try and do what's going to best serve us. Is it that beer, or is there something else that we can have that's going to give us the same effect but isn't going to throw everything out? And I think that was awesome, like what you were saying as well, kind of really just ties everything together with the friction of making the good choice easy rather than putting more pressure onto it. And then if we can do that, we can start to create those reactions, which then will slowly turn into habits. And then you go, okay, cool, this is what I usually do. Doesn't mean you're going to do it every time. You have the choice to do it the other way, but hey, I know this is good for me as well. What I really want to touch on now, and probably something to finish off on as well, is it's just going to be tying us back to the goals, right? And I know right here that you post some stuff about, okay, so there's what I can see as well is there's like kind of like 4 categories almost. And I'd love to see if you've got a couple of like specifics for each one. That'd be awesome if you do. And it goes, so first one would be physique. I'm pretty sure you've posted performance, happiness, and then confidence. And I'd love to hear just a couple, like a little bit more in depth about those 4.
Yeah, mate. What would you like to know, like specifically around? Yeah,
like just for example, like if we're looking for performance, what would a performance goal look like?
Yeah. So performance goals are really about, first of all, how an individual defines their performance, because from sport to sport to, lifestyle to lifestyle, it's going to vary quite significantly. And for some individuals, performance could be just performing in life, so to speak, being able to do activities with their kids, as simple as having enough energy or, enough conditioning, so to speak, to maybe go around and running around the kids. For some individuals, it could be a CrossFit competition. For some individuals, it could be a basketball game. A lot of these things are obviously now kind of on the back burner, so to speak. But for example, a big key performance factor would be how can you match your training adaptations? You're training for a certain kind of goal. You're in a certain kind of area of your sport. Maybe you're in season, you're trying to actually compete, or maybe you're just in the off season and trying to adapt that nutrition to what you're trying to achieve. So performance could be, are you adequately fueling so that you recover and so you can perform during the actual activity as much as you can? Or performance could be, I guess, let's look at it from the perspective of the kind of clients you'd see at your gym. Performance could be, being able to go throughout a whole workout without hitting the wall, so to speak. And that comes also not just nutrition, it's conditioning as well. But for the individual such as that, who'd go to a gym to kind of get healthier, get fitter, feel more confident, for them, performance would likely look like, how well can they train and how well can they recover between each training session, especially for the individuals doing, multiple training sessions in the week. They could do Monday and they could do maybe Wednesday again. Some individuals might even do Tuesday again. And I'm sure you've seen that, where people do multiple after another. Yeah, it's about recovering for that, so they can keep performing as best as they can and actually complete the workout, not only nicely, but actually safely as well. Okay? That's another important factor people don't tend to think about, is how safely can I do my workout, and how does nutrition play a part into that? Because obviously when you're more fatigued, you're more likely to get injured. You're more likely to have reduced mental acuity. And because of that, you're more likely to get injured.
100%. No, I really like that. And I think the main one that we can kind of really tie back to our clients as well is that recovery. Like, yes, I think there's just a very much a stigma around performance as well, that it has to be that high level athlete. But like, hey, like if you're doing, like we've got clients that potentially sometimes do two sessions back to back. So it's an hour and a half of training, or they'll do morning, night, or they'll do 5 days in a row. And I'm like, hey guys, like you need to be fueling yourself heaps. Like you're doing so much activity and exercise. Yes, you're not in a team or you're not in a sporting high up. So they don't necessarily consider themselves as athletes, but I'm like, hey, the performance needed for that is huge. You need to fuel yourself so you can actually recover. So if you, because I say to them, like, hey, if you can recover even 20% better or 10% better, the results you're going to get from all the training you're doing and all the effort you're putting in, it's going to be through the roof. And I think just trying to get that through their head as well has been huge. I guess the next one, so happiness. When I look at happiness, I kind of look at from a nutrition standpoint in terms of a goal, that would be in terms of like adherence and being able to keep it like sustainable, but then having a life. What I kind of push with my clients, especially ones that are going, hey, I want to lose, and they want big changes. Like I say to them straight away, like, cool, that's not going to happen straight away. And if it does, you're going to be miserable. I'm like, I want you to get there and I want you to stay there. I don't want you to get there for a month or get there for a week and then just fall straight back. And I'm like, so the main thing we have to remember and the main thing we have to ask yourself the entire time is, are you having a life? And that's the thing that I kind of drive in when it comes to happiness. But I'd love to hear your little, I guess, takeaway or your little thought action from that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. So for example, for yourself, your clients, like from a training perspective, obviously you'd find where, people wanting these certain results, maybe they want to be able to have a certain level of conditioning or a certain level of strength, but then they forget to think about where would they actually be happy at what level. In the same way for nutrition, people tend to get kind of swayed in the wrong direction by all these different expectations that perhaps people around them are putting on them. Perhaps, other coaches are putting them. Maybe it's, just magazines and that sort of stuff. They have this different reality, this different perspective of what they need to achieve. And they forget about the lifestyle factor. They forget about the fact that you have to do this for a long period of time and you have to enjoy your life while doing it. Because ultimately, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, even if there is some level of compromise and some level of restriction, which there inevitably will be if you're trying to change your body composition or your performance, what they forget is that there has to be some sustainability there. And that comes to the factors, is it actually lifestyle kind of compatible? Does it fit your lifestyle? Can you actually go out and enjoy a meal with friends and still get results? Or are you always just stuck at home eating chicken and broccoli and rice and not really enjoying what you're doing? And then you're either unhappy, which is never a good idea, or you're just a ticking time bomb. You're waiting for the fact when you're going to break off that diet, and it's going to be another year where you have the same conversation again with yourself where I need to snap back into it. And it's just going to be that constant kind of wheel of dieting where it's constantly just diet, no diet, diet, no diet. So really with the happiness side of things, while it's very intangible in essence as a topic, it's something that people have to kind of dig deep down and think, am I happy with what I'm doing? Can I see myself doing it? And am I actually happy with where my results are going and where I am at the moment? Because people can tend to kind of forget and lose themselves in the whole goal setting process. They set themselves a big goal, let's say 20 kilos. And then when they lose the 10 kilos, let's say, they forget to actually sit down and reflect and think about how far they've come. How much more happier am I now? Am I happier, healthier, more confident? They tend to kind of forget about those kind of things and they get kind of pushed aside and they start thinking about the ultimate goal and just fixating too much on that without actually reflecting on their journey so far. So really happiness is, while intangible to a degree, it comes down to self-reflection and thinking about, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I going the right direction? And is this all in line with what I actually want to achieve in my own individual lifestyle?
Yeah, 100%. And I think like there's a heap in there that we could dive into, but we'll try and keep it as isolated as possible. But I think like what you said is like that sustainability. Like what I say to everyone is I'm like, hey, you could jump on the best diet in the world, but if it's not sustainable for you, then you're going to fail. Like that's just number one. Like it has to be sustainable for long lasting results and to keep there, because nobody wants to look good for one day and then just bounce back. And I think that's what that's really good in terms of the happiness going, cool. Right, is it sustainable? And then two, like, I want to be able to live life. And I think that happiness obviously then ties a little bit into confidence, but then even with confidence, I think to a point you can almost, again, it's not necessarily tangible. You can't put a number on it, but I look at confidence in terms of dieting and I go, cool, I know for a fact, if I go out on the weekend and I have a big night and then the next day I just don't, I probably haven't necessarily changed body composition too much, but I'll look in the mirror and I'll just feel I don't necessarily feel confident in myself, but I know for a fact when I'm drinking enough water, I'm training, I'm eating really good, I just feel empowered, even though my body composition hasn't necessarily changed too much. And again, I'd just love to kind of dive in and get your take on confidence as well.
Yeah, no, so confidence a lot of times comes to assessing yourself in, like you said, an intangible way, but thinking about, am I actually getting more confident? I set out to achieve a certain goal. And one of the parts of that goal was feeling better in myself. Then sitting down and be like, do I feel better in myself? When I'm in the gym, do I feel more confident with my movements? When I'm in front of a mirror, do I feel more confident in the way I perceive my self-esteem? And as you can see, a lot of this stuff can come to mindset as well, where it's not really going to be necessarily where you see yourself like, oh, I can see how, I've trimmed off a bit off there and about 5% off there. Like, it's not going to be like that, but it could be a sense of maybe your mindset around what you're trying to achieve is a bit more healthy. Okay. Having that healthy mindset would lead into you feeling more confident about yourself, feeling more confident also about your control of your nutrition, having that awareness around your nutrition so that you know that even if you slip up, you are confident you can bounce back. You're confident you can get back on track and keep moving forward. You don't feel like you're going to be, on edge all the time trying to not muck up, because when you muck up, you feel like you're not going to be able to get back on track. It's about having that confidence in yourself, not only from a visual perspective, but also having confidence in your abilities and having confidence also in the way you do things. So yeah, that's kind of when it comes to confidence and nutrition, where I feel is really key that people need to understand is that it's about your mindset around your approach and how you actually perceive yourself and assessing yourself, reflecting on yourself to think about, am I actually internally actually getting better rather than just physically, rather than just performance wise? Am I internally having a healthier relationship with food? And more importantly, do I have a healthier relationship with myself as well? Because you see it time and time again, and you'll see it as well where people maybe they beat themselves over the fact that maybe they can't do like let's do a muscle up. Let's just do a hard movement. They beat themselves over that. And they don't think about the fact that, oh, am I actually happier where I am now? Am I doing other movements more easily? And the same in nutrition, kind of sitting back and thinking, do I actually feel internally better and more empowered with myself?
No, definitely. And I think that's like, again, like right on, like hit the nail on top of the head with just the being able to reflect and look back and go, okay, cool. Where was I when I first started this? Where am I now? And just being able to reflect back and being, like you said, having a better relationship with food, having a better relationship with yourself. And I think that in itself, just those two things is so huge right now. And a lot of people don't. And a lot of people to a point are even very unaware of it, that they go, oh yeah, cool, my relationship with food's okay. Or yeah, my relationship with myself is okay. And I think to a point, if people do realize that it may or may not be okay with them, if their relationship with food and themselves is or is not great. I find personally that people don't necessarily always see the link with nutrition going into it, but I'm like, hey guys, like the way you guys think, the way not only does it feel, but the way you guys think from day to day, like your nutrition has such a big reflection on that. When I'm eating on point, I have a great feel in my body, and doing everything that I need to do, I'm on top of the world. No one can knock me off no matter what. But the days when I do start to slip up, everything just feels that little bit harder. So I absolutely love that confidence. Absolutely hit the nail on top of the head. So thank you so much, Aleksa, for jumping in and helping us today. Heaps of knowledge, absolute gold mine here. I know everyone's going to take heaps away from that. So thanks again, buddy. Thanks so much for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Thanks for having me on. I hope everyone that listens to this getting some value, like you said. And yeah, because it's really important to understand now with everything going on, we can't lose sight of what we've started. We can't, let everything we've achieved so far, slip away, and we can't let it get in the way of what we were trying to achieve. Because at the end of the day, this will come and go, but at the end of the day, health is a priority. So, whether it's from fitness, whether it's from nutrition, doesn't matter. We need to be focusing on ourselves and keeping that momentum going.
100%. Thanks, buddy.